Hi everyone, John Pokerchip Friedberg here with another episode of Stacking Chips, your strategy source for the 2007 World Series of Poker, the Bellagio Cup, and the dozens of other events going on right here in lovely Las Vegas. Well, the last event I played in was event number 35. It was a $1,500 no-limit hold'em event, had a huge field, and I just never really had anything going for me. I lost a couple races early, doubled up on a race, and ended up, I think I had around just over $2,000 to start my last hand, and the blinds were 1 in 200. I made a raise from middle position with the Queen Jack of Diamonds. I got called by the big blind. The flop came Queen 9-3 with 1 diamond, and I bet out 700. The big blind had check raised me all in for like another 1,000 or something. Cost me another 1,000, which was the rest of my chips, and I ended up calling. He turns over pocket threes for a set of threes. Again, I had Queen Jack of Diamonds. I flopped top pair. And the turn actually was an 8 of diamonds, which gave me a straight draw and a flush draw. But I bricked off with a black 6 on the river, so ended up losing, getting knocked out of that tournament without ever improving against the set that the guy flopped against me. So not too much to talk about in that tournament. Never had any real key hands or anything. And just, your typical top pair versus set loss, and that's what happened. So, oh well, another event down. I'm still, I think that makes probably around $30,000 in buy-ins for me, and I've cashed for a total of about $111,000. So, again, still having a pretty good year, and still quite a few events to come, and of course the main event, which I'm really excited about. I'm anxious to see how big the prize pool is going to be, but I really think that regardless of how big the outcome is, some people are saying it's going to be bigger than last year. A lot of people are saying it's going to be smaller. I think the standard over-under line as far as number of entrants is probably around 6,500, is what a lot of people are saying. But I do think that regardless of the size of the prize pool, I think that Harrah's will probably make first place $10 million. Of course, if the event's larger than last year, that'll be bigger than 10. But I think even if it's significantly smaller, I still think they're going to keep first place at $10 million, and I'm hoping to win that. So that would be nice. But I have a great guest here today. He's a very good friend of mine. He is a very successful player, one of the more well-known players. He's had a lot of success in the last couple of years since he went pro. He is the son of Barry Greenstein, and his name is Joe Sebok. He and I have played in pretty much all of the WPT events in the last year, and of course most of the World Series events this year. He and I we're good friends. We hang out, talk poker a lot, talk strategy. He's a lot of fun to hang out with. And one of the things that impresses me the most about Joe is his ability to accumulate chips. The guy's sick. It seems like every tournament, whether it's a 10K buy-in with 20,000 starting chips or a $1,500 buy-in with 3,000 starting chips, he always has like all of the chips in play by the dinner break. So I'm going to ask him about that, and I'm happy to have Joe on the show. So that said, let's bring him on. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Sebok. Well, Joe, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Brother.
Glad to have you here.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me.
So how's the World Series going for you so far?
It's going well.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's going all right. I've cashed 4 times, so I guess, most people would be happy with that. Narrowly missed out on 2 final tables, so pretty frustrated. I'm a little frustrated right now because I actually just busted out of the 1,500 no limit a couple hours ago, so that's kind of still looming in my head.
And that was day 2 from yesterday's event.
Absolutely.
Right?
It was day 2 from yesterday's event where I had 145,000 when average was 30. So.
Okay. Well, actually, that's one of the things I want to talk to you about, because you and I, we play in all the World Poker Tour events, a lot of World Series events. Every single tournament, within like the first 6 hours, you're chip leader or in the top 5. How do you do it every time? Whether it's a short stack or a deep stack, you're always up at the top of the chip counts.
Everyone asks me this, and unfortunately it's become a bit of a curse. It's kind of become the Sebok thing. I know Matisow was taking bets yesterday on whether or not I was going to cash when I had like 5 times average, which is pretty funny. I don't know exactly what it is. I don't think that I play too many hands, like a Gavin Smith or one of these guys, or a Daniel who's in there just playing every single hand. I don't think that that's what happens. I just play my game. I wish that I had an answer. I wish that obviously there's something specific that I'm doing, because it's happened enough, that it's become a constant thing. But I honestly don't know what it is. Maybe after the World Series I'll actually sit down and maybe write a column on it or try to figure out, analyze exactly what it is. But I don't know. I wish I had a better answer for you.
Well, are you putting, are you trying to get all your chips in the pot on draws, whether it's flush draws or straight draws? Right. Or are you just flopping sets over, or against overpairs, like anything
Right.
in
Well,
particular that keeps happening?
I think probably what it is, I think it's a good combination of patience and craziness. At this point, my reputation is as just a stone cold maniac. Everybody thinks I'm nuts. They assume I have no hand. So if I ever do flop a set, or even if I just have aces or kings, I have people move into me with just drawing stone cold dead. I'll flop a set, some guy will have ace queen, and he'll make a play on me with no ace, no queen on the board. So he's literally drawing dead. There's nothing he can do after that point. So I think it's a combination of that. People are expecting me to have nothing, and when I do have something, I get paid off. I really don't think I play draws or anything like that crazily early. Because the bottom line is you want to play those draws and those things really, really aggressively when you have the chips, when you can put pressure on other people. Early, in my early playing days, I used to just get it in early in those tournaments and not worry about it. But I busted out, in the first couple hours enough times in these $10,000 buy-ins that I kind of shy away from that at this point. So I don't know. I think it's probably a lot to do with my image. People just never think I have a hand. So it's amazing what happens when you actually have a hand and you have that kind of image. It really works out.
Is that just from playing on TV and sort of getting that reputation from televised hands, or is this more from people from playing with a lot of the same players in all these events? And
yeah, well, I think it's probably a combination of both. I've done enough, insane things on television, and I've done enough insane things that have been talked about, for days and days afterwards that it's not unearned. I've really earned the reputation by blowing these huge chip leads that we've talked about. As you said, I may be famous for getting those huge chip leads, but I'm also very famous for blowing those huge chip leads before the actual final table comes. So it's not completely unearned,
So how did that go? You said you were you had 140 something thousand yesterday when the average was 30.
Right.
I know towards the end of the day you still had a lot of chips, but when I saw the ending chip counts after day one, you were at like 60 or so.
Absolutely.
And then you finished you said 90th today.
Right.
Give or take. So, were there any key hands that you got your chips in that just didn't go your way? Obviously there were, but were there,
absolutely.
any?
Well, I had a couple suckouts, as everybody does in tournaments. It's just kind of the way it goes. There was one key hand. We were on the bubble, and I obviously was massive chip leader. Nobody was even remotely close. So, of course, I was raising every hand, raising every hand, raising every hand. And you really need to slow down and just look at it from a psychological point of view for your opponents at that point. So you're thinking, okay, whatever they do, I'm just going to come over the top because I have the power, which is definitely 100% true. But you also need to think about the fact that if they do finally jump up and do something, somebody raises you or re-raises you, it probably took a certain amount of balls just to get to that point, right? Because usually they're like, Jack 10, I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to let it go. This guy's got too much chips. So one of the key hands for me, I raised with King Queen, which is actually a pretty decent hand considering my chips and how much I've been raising. I was pretty happy with it. And then the gentleman directly to my left re-raised me. So the first thing I'm thinking is, okay, I'm just going to move in and just make sure he can't call, which is kind of correct, in the logic of it. But the other side is he has to have a hand, unless he's one of these guys who really does have some balls and really says, I'm just playing back at this kid. I've had enough. And there really aren't that many players who can do that. But at any rate, he re-raised me. I thought for maybe 4 seconds, and I said, screw it, I'm just going to go after him. I moved in, and he sat there, and he thought for maybe 15, 20 seconds, and he finally said, I call. And he called me with ace-queen. So it was one of those things where he had to make a huge call, but the fact of the matter is that I didn't really, give him the respect I should have. The fact he was standing up to the chip leader on the bubble. I should have just let it go, and that hand ended up costing me something like 45 or 50,000 right there, so I doubled him up, which was pretty sick.
Well, that's one of those situations where if we single out this one hand, you're making a great play because you're putting pressure on your opponents on the bubble. Ace-queen is sort of, it's a good hand, but it's not a great hand.
Right.
It's certainly not a hand you want to bust out on when you know you can coast to the money from there.
Definitely.
But when you put it in a broader perspective and, maybe this opponent sees you as raising, 7 out of every 8 hands.
Right.
So, at that point, suddenly ace-queen becomes 2 kings,
Absolutely.
The hand, it increases its perceived value against an opponent that's raising every hand.
Right.
So
absolutely, there's no question. And, you have to take I don't mind busting out on ace-queen. I'm sure you don't mind busting out in those spots when you feel it's the best hand and you're trying to accumulate chips right before the money. It doesn't bother us. But I misread this guy. I thought this guy doesn't want to bust out. He's just not going to put his whole tournament here. And, to his credit, he made a big call and he said, this kid doesn't have a hand that beats me. And he stuck it in there, and obviously he did have the best hand and he won. But, I still put it on myself. He made a borderline call. Obviously if I flip up 2 kings, it's a horrible call. It's all in the eye of the beholder and what cards you have at that point, whether it's a great call or a terrible one.
Yeah, for sure. So you said you've cashed 4 times so far in the World Series this year. How many events have you played? Are you close to break even?
I think I'm about break even, unfortunately, because most of the cashes haven't been for too much. I cashed for like 22,000 in the pot limit event where I finished 11th. But yeah, all in all, I've just been breaking even. I've probably played about, I'd say 20, maybe 23 events, something like that.
And many more to come?
Hopefully. I mean, it's funny. I've been talking to all the players, it's funny, as you start the World Series, everyone's fired up and everyone's excited, and it's kind of like, it's kind of like summertime. Everyone's like, yeah, let's do this. And then a week goes by and 2 weeks goes by and people get a little ground down and they get tired. And now we're kind of, limping into the 50K horse in the main event, and people are like, man, F the World Series. I can't take it anymore. I just want to get out of here. I want to go relax, And
I want to blow up Earth.
Yeah, I want to blow up the Earth. Because we were walking up here, I was like, John, let's just blow something up. I just want to destroy something. I don't know what it's going to be, but let's kill something. But yeah, I know I'm going to end up playing a lot of events, despite the fact that I'm a little frustrated at this point.
Are you going to play the horse, the 50K horse on Sunday?
I'm not playing the horse.
No?
I don't even, it's too much money for me. I don't play the games enough. I do play them, but I'm just dead money in there, and there's virtually no chance for me to ever win a tournament like that. So unless somebody, just wanted to put me in it, then I would play, but there's no way I'm putting up 50,000 of my own dollars.
Yeah, I agree completely. Putting up 10, big event buy-ins for one event where every player in the field is either as good as you or better. It just doesn't make much sense to me.
It doesn't make sense some of the guys, the ego thing, they just want to play the best. I know when I'm I'm overmatched. I'm also not going to go put on, a football jersey and go play the Chicago Bears either, because I don't want to get the shit knocked out of me. So I say go play. You guys have fun, 50K. I respect the hell out of you guys, but it's a little over my head.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about your father, Barry Greenstein. He's one of the best players in the world, and certainly one of the most admirable players in that he does a lot of charity work and gives a lot of money to charity. So he's your mentor.
Absolutely.
So that must be, it must be an amazing experience to be able to have this guy to go to, your dad, who's, so good at poker. What's it like having Barry as a mentor?
Well, it's amazing. There's no question. From a poker standpoint, but and I hate to get corny, but just from just a father-son standpoint, he really raised me, to be a good person. So all these issues that come up in poker, whether it's just being honest or loaning money or all these different things, he's always kind of taught me the correct way to be. And because of that, my word is really, really good in poker. People know if I say something that it's going to happen. So, I really can't say enough about the guy. He's been an amazing father to me and an amazing role model. And just in the poker itself, it's obvious. There's no question. I've only been playing for, 2.5, 3 years at this point. Only professionally for 2 now. The World Series is kind of where I mark. I started professionally in 2005, so this is the 2nd year. So it's amazing what I've been able to accomplish, and then most of that is directly attributed to him, and the time he spent with me.
Yeah, well, not everyone's as fortunate as you are.
Absolutely.
Todd Brunson obviously is in a similar situation. So what would you suggest to the players who don't have someone like Barry to go to? Like what would you suggest to just the normal people out there whose dads aren't the best poker players in the world as far as improving their game?
The fact is I have Barry's number. So
let's give it up.
I'm pretty sure he's taking. The best thing you can do. Not everyone can do it, but is to find a mentor. It's not going to be Barry Greenstein. It's not going to be Doyle Brunson. It's not going to be one of those guys probably. But find somebody who plays the game, who has been playing the game for years. And just discuss with them. Spend time with them. The bottom line is there's no substitute for experience in what we do. Whether it's just the poker lifestyle or the actual games themselves, the guys or women that have kind of walked the beach for years are going to be able to help you in ways you can't possibly imagine. Other than that, read the books, spend the time. You have to really, really be dedicated at what we do at poker. And even when you are that dedicated in poker, still most of us are going to fail. This is a very, very, very difficult undertaking. So you really have to just work at it as hard as you possibly can. Go at it 120%.
Yeah, without a doubt. You can't just sort of go half-assed in poker. You really have to. You really have to give it your all. You have to read the books. You have to get a mentor. But obviously, I think experience is the most important tool as far as improving your game. So let's talk a little bit about the charity work. You said your dad raised you to also be a good guy, which I don't know if I completely believe. Yeah, okay. But so I think you and I are going to be on a charity trip this summer actually with Victor Ramden, which he does every year in Guyana, where he's from, and talk a little bit about that. Let's.
Sure, and I hope you please come. I know you're undecided. Please come.
I'm planning on coming. I should be there.
It's an amazing trip. Victor, as you said, is from Guyana, which is one of the smaller countries at the top of South America, and obviously very poor. He and several other businessmen that are mainly based in New York City kind of got out of there, decided they wanted to give back. and they've created, a group. It's actually called Guyana Watch, and they've hooked up with a lot of local doctors in New York City. They all kind of go down there once a year in August and set up these makeshift clinics. We just hop in vans and buses and drive all, around the country and literally go into, burned out schools or just abandoned places, set up a clinic, bring in the doctors, people from just towns all over the place, within like 50 miles. Sometimes you hear stories of people that have been literally walked like 10 miles to get there just to see a doctor for once a year. So it's really an amazing, amazing experience, especially for people like us from the United States, where we don't have these issues. I mean, if we need to see a doctor, we just give our doctor a call and we just go down there. So it really is just an amazing, amazing thing. And Victor has set it up. I've been going for about 3 years now. Phil Ivey went 1 year. Howard Lederer went. My father's gone. So it's just as many people that can get involved. Definitely should. It's really an amazing thing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. That's something that Victor invited me to probably 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. And we've been trying to figure out the scheduling and things, but I do plan to go this year, so I'm looking forward to that. And, I figure worst case scenario, I'll be out of action from poker, but I could probably make, 30, 40, 50,000 off you guys playing Chinese poker.
Well, I figure you're probably going to make like 60 off of Victor, and I'll take another 40 off of you. But still, that's like a 20,000 profit.
That sounds like a great...
come on.
I agree. So speaking of that, you're known to have some crazy prop bets. I know, I think it was last year in the World Series or 2 years ago or something, you had to run around in like a Spider-Man suit or something. Do you have any bets going on this year?
We do, and I'm winning. That's the most important part about this bet. It's basically the same thing as last year, where Gavin and I, have kind of an all-around bet. This year we actually included Jeff Madsen, just because he's young and stupid enough to jump into a bet like that. And it's exactly what I said. It's the same thing. It's an all-around competition. Only this year, what it is, there are 2 losers and there's 1 winner. So the 2 losers actually have to dress up as court jesters. Okay. And they are going to have to carry the winner into the main event, kind of like on a rickshaw throne type of situation. So the winner's going to have a red robe and like a crown. The theme's kind of royalty. The court jesters are going to have to carry him in each day. They're going to have to play their day ones and every subsequent day after that in their court jester outfits that they stay alive.
So what's the bet?
It's exactly that. It's just an all-around World Series performance. It's just how well you do. You accumulate points.
As far as cashes?
As far as, the way that it breaks down, we have a scoring system, which you can check out on my site, joesebok.com, on one of my blogs. But basically, you have to be in the top 100 and you have to cash, is the way that it works out. There's something like 15 no-limit events that we all kind of universally use amongst ourselves. Okay. In addition, each person got 3 Joker events. So they went and picked, 3 events that they thought they were really going to kick ass in, and then those events are double. And then you also get extra points depending on how much the buy-ins are. So if it's a 5K event, it's more points than a 1K event, and so on and so forth.
So Gavin took second place in the 1,500 pot limit, which I actually took third in. Was that one of the events?
An event that did not count.
Sucks for you, Gavin.
So I dodged a big bullet. It was it was nice because I could root for him as a friend. Without, if he would have already basically just almost ended the bet that day. Had he ended up, or even second place, he pretty much would have ended the bet. But as it was, it didn't count, and Gavin still to this point has not scored any points whatsoever. So he has a big goose egg, unfortunately.
And how's Jeff doing?
Jeff has 60 points. Jeff has cashed once, and he cashed in one of his Joker events. So he was lucky in that respect. So he has 60 points, and I'm leading the way with something like 230, something like that. So it's going to be tough for them at this point to catch up.
Well, hopefully that bet holds out for you. I'm rooting for you.
Thank you. You have to after Wonder Woman and all this shit that I had to go through last year. How can you not root for me?
I completely agree. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Brother.
It was great to have you here. Best of luck in the rest of the World Series.
Thank you.
And hopefully you and I will end up at some final tables together.
I hope so, man.
The main event would be nice, wouldn't it?
Very nice.
Awesome. Well, that's it for today's episode of Stacking Chips. Make sure to tune in tomorrow and every day throughout the World Series for more poker talk, strategy, discussions, and more right here on Card Player TV. And keep those emails coming to stackingchips@cardplayer.com. From John Poker Trip Friedberg,
I'm Joe Sebok.
That's all for now. We will see you guys tomorrow. Good luck and have a good night.